some more signs of distress that we're also finding. This poor animal here has obviously been trying to expel the poison or whatever's in her gut, and she's been pushing, and out the rectum area here there's just full of, the blood vessels are all full, which is totally unnatural. There's a pile of blood here, there's some blood here. Yesterday we had a hind that had frothing at the mouth, some sort of out of her nose, and some, you know, strange looking phlegm. This is ugly stuff, ugly stuff. This poor creature's suffered unnecessarily.
(1080) is not a fast-killing poison. When ingested, it's broken down inside the gut and effectively begins to starve the animal by disrupting the Krebs cycle. Some animals are able to regurgitate or vomit the poison out and may survive. Most others, generally herbivores, are not endowed with the reflex of vomiting, so then become victims to the varying length of illness that follows. According to the Department of Conservation website, possums take 6 to 18 hours to fall to the slow-working effects of this poison. Larger mammals can take longer. In some cases, an animal might not receive a fatal dose as the amount consumed is left to the creature's appetite or the availability of the baits on the forest floor.
If Aussie can be TB free and the opossums are protected, they never poison them, and the whole reason for 1080 poisoning is because they reckon the opossums carry TB.
Dogs are particularly susceptible to 1080 poison. Since 1080 was introduced, hundreds and even thousands of dogs have become indirect victims through what is known as secondary poisoning.
My dog ate a joey, which is a baby possum, and she started reacting a bit funny, so I had a look where she was beside the truck, and she'd vomited up a jawbone of a joey, and I thought, oh no. That was about half an hour, 3/4 of an hour's drive to try and get to a vet. By the time I realised what was going on, and had actually seen it, she'd obviously eaten it a wee while before, and she was starting to get very, very anxious. The eyes started, like bulging. Her jaw started opening, closing, snapping. Then lockjaw started with her jaws open, frothing at the mouth. She was incredibly anxious and tried to do something for her, and she'd settle down, just reassuring her and reassuring her and reassuring her. She was in terrible distress. She started doing it again and again and again and getting worse and worse, and she was in that much, a real nice word for it is distress. Lockjaw, foaming, eyes weird. She knew something was absolutely wrong, but she couldn't tell you what it was or anything like this. I knew there is no antidote. You cannot fix it. She'd vomited the piece up that got her, but dogs are so susceptible that a minuscule amount will tip over a dog. I think the difference is probably I got to see my dog die at very close range, whereas most people's dogs die in the kennel later on that evening. A lot of dogs die from it. It is unnecessary. There are other methods that can be used. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I asked Max to shoot her.
And here we have another magnificent deer. It's a male in beautiful condition. What a shame. Well, I don't know what kind of trauma and suffering this guy went through, but he's in a strange position right under a big tree fall. It's as though he was stumbling and just couldn't get up again, and he's fallen right into it. But anyway, another major concern surrounding this poison is the fact that it goes on killing long after this animal's died. In other words, it has a secondary effect. So if, for instance, a dog or any other animal should come along and have a chew on this carcass or a dead possum, then it dies also. And of course that makes you wonder, what about other creatures? Birds like falcons and hawks, if they come and have a peck, what happens there? Insects, they start feeding on the carcass. Another bird comes and eats those insects. What happens there? Another chain reaction. Really makes you wonder. According to recommendations on manufacturers' labels, all animals killed by 1080 poison should be disposed of by being buried deeply or burned, not left exposed to nature and our beautiful environment.
As a poison that's very effective for that, and Forest and Bird supports that. You know, if there's something else to do the job better, we'd support that as well. At the moment, it's the best we have to be able to manage, particularly things like possums, stoats, rats, over huge areas. Another issue that's often raised by hunters is this issue of the poison. They say, oh, it's a poison. We'd rather not be dropping poison from the air. But the thing about 1080 is it's actually one of the safest chemicals that you could think to do this job. I have here a little prop, which is my Ripples salt and vinegar crisps, and the reason why I often carry these around when I'm talking to people about, you know, protecting New Zealand's bush is because 1080 is sodium monofluoroacetate. It's a very simple chemical. Sodium fluoride is a salt. In fact, you use sodium fluoride in your table salt. It's mainly sodium chloride, but there's also sodium fluoride in your table salt. And acetate, presence of water, breaks down the vinegar. So the breakdown products of 1080 are salt and vinegar, pretty much.